Hello everyone and welcome back to another Math Monday. Today I am going to be reviewing The History of Mathematics by Jacqueline Stedall, and this is in the A Very Short Introduction series, which I've read multiple of before. So this very short introduction series is just what it says. The books are very short introductions to a variety of topics, and they have these topics in, well, a wide variety of topics. So on the first page in here, they're advertising all the other topics that they are going to do very short introductions for, or they have very short introductions for, and they have available soon, so if you want to see the next ones. This is obviously only as up to date as the book that you have, but I have read some of these before and I do usually enjoy them. I will say about these very short introductions, like any books, they do vary in quality based on the author. So I have read some that I haven't been as much of a fan of, and I also wanted to point out the obvious challenge in writing something so broad like a history of mathematics in a very short introduction. So I feel like this author is up to a very big task, and she accomplishes it very well in my opinion. So this history of mathematics did not take the usual chronological route, what was happening in Europe and the order that things were happening in Europe and the discoveries that were made and these big mathematicians. Instead, it kind of went into a variety of little topics. So I'm just going to open up to this front page and read some of them. We have mathematics, myth, and history. What is mathematics and who is a mathematician? How are mathematical ideas disseminated? Learning mathematics, mathematical livelihoods, getting inside mathematics, and the evolving historiography of mathematics, as well as a further reading section. So instead of following a chronological view of history, they kind of cover those big topics and discuss those in light of history. Something that I really appreciated about this book, and it's something that I haven't really thought of before when reading about the history of mathematics, that maybe I should have, is instead of just covering the ideas or the concepts of the big people that you think about in mathematics, they also cover mathematics for the common person. So when I think of a history of mathematics, I definitely thought this book was going to cover the big names, so the big discoveries in mathematics. I thought this was going to be about Newton and Leibniz and everyone else that you read about in your math course in college. So what are they? Gauss, Lagrange, Euler, Euclid, Pythagoras, those people. And I thought it was kind of going to be put in the chronological order, and this is what they discovered, and here's how it influenced future things. This book did include some of those big highlights and those big points in mathematical history. It also included like bringing the numeral into European culture, so the numeral system, instead of having to use any of the clunkier previous systems for keeping track of numbers, they also cover like the place system and the zero and how that kind of changed mathematics. They also cover calculus and its simultaneous invention by Leibniz and I almost said Einstein, Leibniz and Newton. However, this book also thought about and really posed the question, what was mathematics in this time in history to the common person? So everyone uses mathematics at some point in their daily life, and everyone throughout history has also had to use mathematics at some point in their daily life. If you're in the market and you want to buy something, you want to know how much currency it's going to cost. If you are building something, you need to do some basic geometry. There's a lot of mathematics that's in the day-to-day life that doesn't get covered in a book on the history of mathematics because it's not, I don't want to say prized, but it's not like a high discovery, so then it kind of gets glossed over and forgotten about. And this book kind of brings that back to light, noting that yes, we have the Newtons and the Leibniz and everyone else in history, the people who made those big discoveries that we really think about when we think about the history of mathematics, but we also have the scribes from Babylon who just had to learn how to do mathematics in base 60 to accurately keep track of grain. And base 60 multiplication tables, which are covered in here, seemed like a nightmare to memorize. A lot more difficult than our base 10 mathematics that we do. Well, what's difficult though? To them it probably seemed normal. So I think that was a very, very good point this book made, and probably the strength of this book was calling out those normal everyday mathematic parts of history that we don't usually think about. This book also didn't just concentrate on kind of what was happening in Europe. They also really branched out into the other areas where mathematics was happening. They do mention though that in some places we don't have as good a record, so we're not able to reconstruct some of this. Same thing for like the common people. It's harder to reconstruct what your local fisherman was using when he was navigating around the sea, because that was probably, if he had a book, if he had any sort of record, it was probably well used, and it wasn't maintained in the same way that some of these ancient texts have been maintained and passed on throughout history. So I thought that was another good point that they covered in here, and I thought it was really, really interesting that they covered that. I really enjoyed this book. I thought this was a very good, a very short introduction, a really good entry in the series, and a really good book on the history of mathematics. I did give it a 3-star just because anything you read in this book, by the nature of it being so short, you're going to want to go find another book to read on because you get so little because the author's moving so fast. I think that's just in the nature of the book though. I don't think that's any fault. It's just kind of the format that you're given. You have so little time, so you can't go too deep. So if you want to know more about something, you will have to get another book on it. But I did really enjoy this, and I thought that it had some refreshing takes on the history of mathematics, and I enjoyed reading it. If this sounds interesting to you, give it a read. Let me know what you think. Other than that, everyone, I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you.